Okay, we're recording. And where has the closed captioning gone? Live transcript. Is it working now? Is it working now? Let me try
I
stopping
can
the
see it on my screen.
Okay,
It
I
as well.
couldn't see it on mine. All right. Very good. Well, I'm glad that it's working. Let's go back to the agenda. So a few announcements. First, a reminder that Project 3 is due on the 15th and Chapter 5 is due on the 16th. Now, I'd also like to announce an amnesty for readings. So if you're missing a reading, if you are unsatisfied with the grade that you got in a particular reading, I will regrade all of the readings after February 16th. So after this day, I will regrade all of the chapters. So if you'd like to increase that score, that would be wonderful. Take that opportunity, please. Okay. Now, if there's anybody who still does not have the book, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do to make that happen. All right. Okay. So like we do every class period, I'd like to start with review. Anything you want to review going back to day one, and that's review questions, book questions, or project questions. Go ahead.
About the project, I am almost done with it. All I need is maybe a hint on how to have the program enter something if the user enters something that's not on the list or in the words.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So we have a dictionary, yes, of the words that have been found.
Yes.
Okay. So if a user input, I don't know what you want to call it, not in the dictionary, then you can print an error message of your choice. And if it's inside a loop, which it should be, you can then use continue to go back and get more input. Now, this might not be exactly right for your implementation because there are an infinite number of ways of writing the implementation. So for instance, what I can imagine might not be right for yours is when you do the continue, not sure how you implemented. You might need to consider how to prompt the user again and get more input. Okay. Does that help, Colin?
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks.
good. I am glad. How about more questions for review, for the book, for the project? I must say, those of you who have your cameras on, which I do encourage, please, and to the extent that your heads are visible, you all look good today. I hope you are feeling as well as you look. Okay. Still waiting for some more questions.
Can you review how to use the accept function that we talked about on Tuesday?
Yes, we can. And that will be right here.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so if it's okay with you, we'll delay a little bit.
Yep, that's fine.
Other people? I was talking to a colleague just the other day. He said that when he asked the question and nobody answered, he waited 10 minutes until somebody finally gave him an answer. You know, so it's like one of these don't make me turn this car around moments. Okay, anybody? Questions? Review? Book problems? Project problems? Okay, reminder that you have a midterm coming up. If we switch to the browser, we have a review day on the 18th, and then the exam itself on the 23rd will be given in class. If you would like some extra time on it, I don't think it should be, you know, the exam is designed to take far less than 100 minutes or less than 100 minutes, and I shouldn't editorialize by saying far less. I know it would take me far less than 100 minutes, but I can't say the same for everyone. So if you'd like to have some extra time on it, I will enable the exam. Let's see, our class starts at 9:50. So by about 9 o'clock, I'll have the exam enabled and you can start then if you want. Okay, does that sound fair to everybody? Good.
Yep.
Good. All right. So I'll tell you what, let me go on to the review of the try and accept. So I'm switching over to REPL. I hope you follow me. Let's start out with something straightforward, like what happens when you get bad input. Okay, so user input is equal to int input and a prompt, enter a number. And let's just print the number. What could go wrong? Okay, so I'm going to run that program. And I'll enter a number. Excellent. Wow, it works. My day is done. Oh, man. So I got, you know, I made assumptions about what the user was going to input. And isn't it just like those crazy users to input something that I didn't expect? And I crashed and I'm embarrassed. And I'm going to go home and lock my door and binge watch Teletubbies. So maybe I shouldn't crash, but I'm looking at the crash and I notice value error. Okay, so value error is what's coming up when I attempt to do an int of something that's not a number. So tell you what, let's be responsible, and I'll put that inside of a try, and the block, the try that ends with a colon, and like everything else in Python that ends with a colon, what comes next is a block of statements which end when the block ends when the indentation goes back to where it was, where the try starts. So both of these lines, 3 and 4, are part of the try. And I'll put it, I'm extenting. Here is accept. And I will accept what type of error? A value error. And now I know what went wrong. And I can say, for example, print, please enter a number. Please enter a number. That's fine. It doesn't have to be wonderful. So let's try that again. Enter a number, and I'm not. But now I've handled it gracefully. So catching of exceptions is a powerful tool. This isn't all of it, but this is a good review. Let's add another condition so that you can see that you can catch more than one error. How about file equals open of something that doesn't exist? And I'll have to look at that. I don't know if you can see notice what I'm doing right here, but I started out the string with a single quote, and I want to use a single quote in there. And now I know that I can change the single quotes around the outside, so I can use a single quote inside, but I can also do the escape character, so the backslash or bash. All right, and boy, it seems to me this could be a little bigger. Yeah, how about that? So let's run this program. Now, if I enter a bad number, it works just like it did before. Notice it did not attempt line 5. That when the error caused at line 3 happened, we immediately went to line 6. So let me put in a good number this time so we can get past line 3. I'll put in the number 4. And then, oh gosh, I got another error. So
Professor?
I don't have, yes?
I'm getting an error. It says bash and then my file and then command not found. And I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, so you'd get that if you entered something into the shell that did not correspond to a known program. So something like that.
Yeah.
So carefully read to me what you have here, that second word.
So for that one, I have Python and then main.py. That's the file that I'm using.
Okay, so you say Python, and then the file that you're using. And this is failing for you?
Yeah, well, I reloaded it and now that's not giving me the same error.
Okay,
I'm not sure what happened there. Okay.
I'm happy to have fixed it. That's the best kind of error. Okay. All right, so I'm going to enter a good number this time, and I crash for another reason. So rather than making a second try block, I want to show you that you can catch more than one kind of error. Okay, so let me hold here for a moment. And enter a good number, and then it says a bad file name. I think I still want to make this text bigger. So a number of accepts can be matched up to a single try. There's still more to learn about try and accept, but this is a good review. I'm going to add one more error just because I can, and I want to show you before we leave try and accept for today. So, oh boy, with the titles on, I can't see what I'm typing. And because of Zoom, I can't, oh, there, I was able to change the size of the window. All right. Okay, one more time. And here I'm going to hit Control C, and that sure looks like a crash. It says keyboard interrupt. So you can catch that as well. You can. Now this is pretty dangerous though. If you catch Control C, then you better have a way of exiting the program. So I'll say accept and keyboard interrupt. Okay, and there is a single quote there, and let me fix up the single quote here. All right, let's run that again. And Control C. So the Control C was handled. But remember, I've been using Control C to kill programs that were perhaps going wrong or producing too much output. So if you catch keyboard interrupt, you have to do something meaningful with that Control C, okay? Because it's no longer going to kill your program.
I have a question.
I am all ears.
So every time we've used accept so far today, it's been to do an error. Is accept only ever used for errors?
No, actually, it's a way of moving around your code. It's an advanced way of moving around your code. For example, let's put in, let me make sure I have a file that works. Okay, so studata.csv. I'll put that in here so that this works. Do data.csv, and you can put in any file that works there. So how about this? We'll print the file is open. And how about this? Raise my own error. Let's try that. Let's see what that does. So it's a new keyword, raise. 3. Okay, so I'm not ready to show you how to raise your own exceptions, but I am indicating to you that you can raise your own exceptions. Okay. All right, and as I mentioned, there's a lot more to learn about exceptions, and that's in a future lesson.
Okay.
All right. Let me switch to the iPad and say just a little bit more to Milo about, oh, that's not how you switch. It's this way. Okay. So we've seen that when you define your own functions and you call them, it's sort of like your code is running along, and then when you call a function, it's sort of like this. Then here's the function call, and then you have code that's running. Now let's say that function makes a function call, and now this code is running. Let's say that function makes a function call. and you have some code that's running, and you discover a really bad error way down here. Look at how many levels deep you are. You're 1, 2, 3, 4 levels deep, and you discover an unrecoverable catastrophe. One of the options that you have is to use your own exception. And for example, to raise your own exception here. And what will happen? Well, Python will see if you are in a try block here. No? Okay. It'll see if you're in if you handle the exception here. No? Okay. It'll see if you handle the exception here. No? Okay. It'll see if you handle the exception here. And if no, then crash. So what I'm showing you right now is that when an exception happens, it will percolate upwards until either there's an accept that's catching it, or you've reached the top level, in which case you crash. So I'd like to demonstrate that now. And I'll go to a REPL. And what I need to do is to declare some functions. So, whoops, def foo, and that's going to call bar, and def bar is going to call fee, and fee is going to call, let's see, how many levels deep are we? This will be the 4th level. So that would try to open, try to open a bad file. And let's see where it goes. Okay. Of course, I also have to call it. So the one that's on top is foo. So I'm going to call foo. So the idea here is that on line 15, I call foo. Foo calls bar. Bar calls fee. And fee has an error. But you'll notice the only place that I'm handling the error is way up at the top level. So let's see what happens. What I do wrong? Oops, I missed the colon. Okay. Enter a number, 3. And let's see, I opened a file here. The file is open. Then I call foo, and foo called bar, and bar called fee, and fee committed an error, and it came out all the way up here at the top level. So that's an example of this percolating upward that I mentioned. Okay, so it's all the way down from fee, it percolated upward until it hit a correct catch.
But that's not like literally how you write the code, because that error catch was down near the bottom of the code.
Not the catch, or maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Let me, can you restate that?
So it looks like we call foo, and foo calls bar, and bar calls fee, and fee opens the bad file. And those are all up in the upper lines 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's at line 19 that it catches it. So it's not exactly like top to bottom, quote unquote.
Well, where the code appears on which line number and what order is not relevant. What is relevant is that the calling structure has a depth to it. Let me add a little bit more. So print inside foo before bar, and I'll say print inside foo after bar. And I'm going to do this for each one, and let me just fix it up. Whoops, inside fee after error,
elementary education.
and inside fee
General music.
before error.
And I'd like to find one that's.
And Milo, could you mute yourself?
Sorry.
There you go. All right, so inside bar, there goes my pencil, before fee. Okay, so let's see what happens. So I'm inside foo. Okay, now I'm inside bar. And I'm inside fee before the error. The error happens, and I jump all the way out to the end. But let me put in just a little bit more. Let's say I'm in foo, and I decide I can handle the error. So try bar, accept, file, whoops, that's the wrong thing. File not found error. Who is handling the error from C? Okay. And enter a number, 3. So you see that you didn't have to percolate all the way to the top. As long as you're unwinding the functions that you've called, the error is handled the first place that it discovers an accept that matches the error. So notice so inside fee before the error, that goes to all the way up to foo. It skipped over bar because bar doesn't handle the error. So foo is handling, and then notice that the execution continued. So so from here, we just went along our merry way. So try and accept is a very flexible, very powerful means of handling errors. Okay. Okay, can I have your questions about what we know so far, but exceptions?
Whenever I
So
enter
does-
anything, sorry, you can go first.
Thanks. So does accept actually fix the error, or it's just a means of letting you know that there is an error?
It's a means of letting you know that there is an error such that you don't crash.
Okay, thank you.
So now you might have code that fixes the error, but that is up to you as the programmer. Okay.
Then do we only use try and accept in order to patch errors? To handle errors?
Well, there, From what we know so far, yes, we'd be handling errors.
Okay.
To use exceptions as a means of some fancy coding, we haven't learned that. Okay, so, but I did indicate that the keyword raise allows you to throw your own errors that hopefully will be caught. In fact, in other computer languages, raise is replaced by the word throw, and accept is replaced by the word catch. So that's why I keep using the error was thrown and the exception was caught. And it just occurred to me, then this idea of percolating is the error was thrown over the head of bar, and it was caught in foo. Okay, questions, please.
When I put in anything, it's not running any of the fee after whatever stuff. Did I do something wrong?
Definitely, it's you. Was that helpful?
Dang.
Was that a helpful response? Tell
That
you
could
what.
not be more helpful.
Okay, let
I
me
know
make it
everything now.
possible. Let me make it possible for you to share. And if you're willing, can you show us your screen and we'll diagnose the problem.
Yeah, I'll do it. Screen. Replit. Share. Okay, can you see it?
Oh, yes, can see it. So let's see. Enter a number, that worked. And then you opened it. Okay, so where it looks like it went wrong is I see that it didn't reach line 23.
What didn't?
Okay. Execution. Yeah, you see,
Execution.
you entered a 3, so that was on line
Yes.
20. Then you printed a 3, that's on line 21. A file, you attempted to open a file, and then you did not print file is open. So that's got to be the error right there on that file open. Could you click on the left-hand side to examine what files you have? The blue papery looking thing. Keep going
I
left.
just
Yeah.
have a main.py.
Ah, well, there you go. You're missing studata.csv.
Let me find that.
So I can get you going real fast if you want to replace on line 22 the name of the file. Just make it main.py. Or you can put studata in. You beat me to it.
Yes.
Okay, try that.
Let's open foo before bar, inside bar. All right. Is that how it's supposed to be?
That is how it's supposed to be.
I'm not missing anything.
It was preordained back in the era of the Babylonians. That is how it's supposed to be.
Oh, well, amazing.
Warning, bad pun coming up. You are exceptional. That was
Amazing.
terrible. Yep. That was awful. Okay, if you want to stop your sharing.
All right. Get out of here.
Yep. Okay. Other questions about exceptions? Anybody? Okay. So we have taken a look and let's see, I remember dropping my pencil. I wonder where it went. Here, pencil. Well, I can't find, oh, there it is. Okay, so that is this part of the review. Let's take a look again at opening files with the with statement. And to do that, I'll go back to Replit. Is it okay with everybody to eliminate this code? Do you want to take, anybody need a one last look? Okay. Okay. I have something on the agenda that I'm going to put in first. Let's take a look at that. Writing a real Python program. Ooh. Okay. So far, we have been coding at the top level. You know, we just put code here. And when we run that, it runs. We've also seen that if you put a function in, we've seen that unless you call it, it doesn't run. See, hello from func didn't show up. So there's something about this top level that's special. And what's special is that as Python reads in your program, it will execute any code found at the top level. Okay, and that is not commonly done. Instead, you'll find something like this. If underscore underscore, so that's called a dunder for double under. The name equals a string of dunder, main dunder, colon, then call func, and I'll even put in else. No, I'm not going to put in an else, but I will put in another hello from the top level. Okay, let's try that. So what just happened is I have from the shell executed main.py. So this underscore underscore name underscore underscore is a built-in variable. If its value is this, it means that this file is the one that you asked to execute. So without asking questions, which is unusual for me, right? So without you asking questions, let's write our code this way from now on. And that is, we'll put all of our code into functions, and we'll put in this construction if dunder name dunder equals string dunder main dunder. Then launch into your program. Okay?
Wait. Does that mean that you put code into different files in the Replit?
Actually, that is the implication that I'm hinting at. is that your Python program can in fact be made up of more than one file.
Aha.
And since you let the cat out of the bag, I'll tease you with with that. So let's see what files I've got. And I'm going to create a new one called secondfile.py. And in there, I'm going to do something at the top level. And also put in a function. Okay. Now, how do I get from here? How do I get from here to secondfile.py? Well, we actually do know how. Import second file. And then I will call, what did I call it? I'm too old, I don't remember this stuff. Okay. All right, goodness gracious, what is gonna happen? Func in second file, what do I have to do it like this? No, no way. See that? I should never do anything that I'm not prepared to do. Okay, so let me see if I can just fix this real fast. If not, I will get back to you with it. Let's see. So in module line 8, func. Okay, then I don't know how to complete the example. So I will get back to you on that.
Do you have to tell the code in main.py that it's from second file? Like when we import random?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, let's try that. Oh, yeah, let's really try that. So from second file, import that. Ooh, I wonder if that works. Thank you. Thank you so much. But I want to, let's nail this example. Notice this line was printed. So take a look at second file, and I want to emphasize that code at the top level is executed as it is encountered. But code that is in a function is recorded by Python, but not executed until you ask to execute it. And the value here is that func will only be called is if this is the main program. Ooh, let's do one more thing. Here, if name equals main, print second file is main. Okay, so let's run the same program that we did before, and you'll see that that is not printed because I executed main.py, not second file. Second file by itself is also an executable Python program. Let's do that. Second file. main.py. And notice this time, it is recognized as main. So this is pretty cool feature of Python. I don't know if you'll grasp the coolness of it right now, but a Python program that you write could be used to augment another Python program that you write. In this case, I've been writing main.py. I've been writing main.py, and I wanted to take advantage of code that I put in the second file. And I was able to do that by importing second file. But I'm also able to execute second file on its own. So I could use another program file to add to something I'm writing. And I can also use that, if I want to, that second file as a program on its own. So Milo, I'm sorry, that was more than you bargained for.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but hey,
And I'm deeply appreciative to, was it Ida? Ada.
Ida.
Ida,
Yeah.
right? So I appreciate Ida for rescuing me.
okay, so can you explain what the name equals string dunder main dunder is?
Okay,
What does
so
the main mean?
so oh, so let's say the Python program that you're working on, the code has been split into 10 other files, which is sometimes a good idea because if you can collect the code that does one thing into its own file, then the understandability of the whole project is increased. So let's say we've been writing report generators, right? So we have this phase where we're gathering data and then a phase where we're reporting on the data. You can put the gathering in one file and just isolate it there. And we could put the reporting in another file and isolate it there, so that each file is smaller and hence easier to understand. Only one of them will have line 6 here, evaluate to true. Only one of those. And it will be in the file that you told Python to execute. All the other files that have this will say false. Okay, so only one file will find this to be true. And that file is the one that you executed with Python.
So, just getting my bearings. The dunder name dunder is one of the keywords, just like if, then, if, else, rada rada.
Almost.
Because it's blue. That's what I'm noticing. It's blue, just like the other
Yes.
ones.
Right. So it's a built-in variable.
Right.
But
And that
because
just
it's
means
built in, it's blue.
then that stands for whatever the name of this file is.
Correct.
Okay. So
Now-
if this is the file being executed.
Yes. So if this file, no matter what its name is, here it's the name is second file.
Right.
If this is the one that's being executed directly by Python, then this statement will evaluate as true.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I gave you more information than you wanted. I hope that wasn't TMI. Let's go back to what I started out doing, which was a review of using with to open a file. So I'll do that using, you know what? I'll do that in second file. All right, so with open, and I'll use my favorite studata.csv. As in file. Okay. All right. Print file is open. Okay. And I'm not going to close it because the close is going to be happening automatically because of the width. And the close will happen by the time you get here. Okay. But I'm not going to execute second file. I'm showing once again, emphasizing that you can break your code up into multiple files for understandability. So here's the file I will execute, and it imports second file. Oh, I hate it when it does that. It sort of disconnects momentarily and then doesn't remember what I was doing before. Okay. Well, this Carthage shirt's too warm. Just too warm. Okay. Let's go here. So once again, to review the width. So width, the open as, and then you give it the open file a name. And by the time you leave this code block, the file will be automatically closed.
Once again, I'm looking at the colors of the words and what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
So open and print and the creation of the function that we created up there, those are all purple. And of course, with and as and if, def, are all blue. Theoretically, could we put a different, I don't know what the right word for the purple words are, but could we theoretically put with something else as insert variable name?
To a limited degree.
I understand. I
The
was looking at this and I was like, print doesn't seem like something you can do with that with.
right, to a limited degree, that's possible.
Yeah.
So the blue says this is a keyword in Python, something built into Python. The purple is something that is user defined, even if the user is not you. For example, you didn't write open, but somebody else did. Print, it's not specifically part of Python, but it's available to you by default. Okay, anybody have any questions? Where was I? Okay. So that was a little bit of review.
Can I ask another thing?
Yeah.
So we had the if dunder name dunder equals dunder main dunder. Is that a fixed statement? Like that is the function, what it means? Because we already established that the name, which is blue, I believe, it's the variable that means this file being executed. But is the equals main equals dunder main dunder? Is that whole thing a fixed statement?
Yes. By fixed,
Understood.
I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, the statement to
I mean,
do
like,
this always looks like
wouldn't
that.
you wouldn't put anything else instead of main. Main isn't just a placeholder or a variable. It's actually got something that
Correct.
it means.
Correct.
Understood.
Yeah. So if dunder name dunder equals dunder main, that is the expression used to launch into code that's not at the top level.
Right. Okay. Because I was noticing that the dunder main was red, which usually just indicates a string. But I was wondering, could that be anything, or is that a fixed statement?
No, this is the fixed string. That's the only string that works in
That
finding
context.
out which is the file that you executed.
Understood.
So that's special. It is a string, but it's special.
Okay.
All right, let me see if my pencil's working again. Good, it's working again. Stopped working for a moment. Okay, so let's go back. So we've done this. And now let's get some more practice with CSV. And I'm going to do that with your help, but I'm going to do it over again. We're not going to start from the code that we had last time, which, by the way, the code that we developed last class, I commented and put online for you. I believe everyone should have received a message saying that that file is available. Good. All right, and let's go back to Replit. Okay, so let's go to main. And okay, don't get confused. Now, MAIN is just the name of a function like any other. It's not dunder main dunder. That's a string. Okay, so I'm using this name to indicate this is the main function of my program. Okay. What does pass do?
It still runs the code, but it lets you fill it in later.
Yes, yes, perfect. So let me take pass out. Let's see what we get. We get an indentation error because it is expecting as part of this code block to be indented, but there's nothing there. So it hits line 5 and says, this is the wrong indentation level. So I'm not ready to write pass yet, write main yet. So I'll just leave it like that. And now everybody's happy. Okay, so if you want to take advantage of the CSV package, what do? Anybody?
You import it?
Okay, so import CSV. Notice where I am, by the way. I'm in second file. Now I'm getting really into the idea of demonstrating multiple files for you. Okay, so Milo, you got me going there. All right, so
You're
how about
welcome.
gather data, and let's use a parameter for the file name. Okay. And now we'll, let's put that in a try because we don't want to crash if the file name can't be opened. So in file equals, well, we'll do it this way. With open file name as in file. Okay. Now, how do I wrap an open file inside of the CSV package that will allow us to filter the data through the CSV package so what we get is interpreted CSV, parsed CSV. Anybody?
Wasn't it reader something?
Yep, it was reader something. So how about R equals CSV dot reader, and you give it the open file. So you're wrapping the open file with a CSV support. And now let's go through each line of the reader. So for every row in R, okay, and we'll get every row passed back to us as a list. So what I'm going to do is gather the data here, but not interpret it. So all rows is a list. All rows. Does anybody remember how to append something to a list? Anybody?
Then just dot append.
I'm famous for these white horse questions. Okay, so the file, what's the file called? File name. Could not be opened. Now watch what I do here. I'm going to return all rows. So all rows is a list. And if the data is read successfully, it's going to be a list of lists. Once again, demonstrating putting one data structure inside of another. So all rows, this is kind of good programming practice here. All rows starts out as an empty list. And if an error happens here, I'll return the empty list to whoever called gather data. So if the file opens correctly, what will be in all rows are all of the rows of the file as a list. Okay. Now let's go back. This is the second file. Let's go back to main. And from second file, import gather data. Okay. So let's make use of it. The lines, I'm demonstrating that it doesn't have to be called all rows, is equal to gather data to data.csv. So now I've received back from gather data a list called lines in this module, in this package, in this program file. It's called lines. Doesn't have to be called all rows. And I can now test the length of lines to see if gathered data worked. Okay, so how about this? If the length of lines is equal to 0, gather data failed. And perhaps we might exit the program. So if we get here, gather data collected lines. So we're demonstrating the utility of hiding some of your code. So I put the data reading code in this second file, and thereby my main is very short. Let's try running this. There. What does this button do? Auto format. Yeah, okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Good.
Why is there a 1 in the parentheses after exit?
I was wondering if anybody would ask that. It's there because notice how I'm in a shell here, and the shell is used to run other programs. So the shell is a program, and I use it to run other programs. So for example, ls, or you've seen cat. Okay, too long. Okay, so the shell is able to be programmed itself. It's beyond this course, but what's part of this course is letting the shell know if your program succeeded without error or not. So what I'm going to do is I'll just force this so-called error. And let me run the program there. And now the shell knows this is beyond the scope of this course, but I'm setting. So what I'm showing you now is something you should do if there is a failure in your program. You exit with a return code other than 0, and that will allow a shell to correctly identify that the failure happened. So in a shell, a return code other than 0 says failure. Now I'll put this in as a 0, and you'll see the difference. See? So once again, the code that you leave your program with using exit. If it's non-zero, you're signaling a failure. If it is zero, you're signaling success. So it's a good habit for you to do.
So basically, anything that you put in parentheses after an exit just tells the shell this is what was not supposed to happen.
Yeah, well, an integer that you put into the exit will be passed back to the program that called your program. So think about functions. A function can call another function. Well, it turns out programs can call other programs. That's kind of wild and a wild idea and out there. But you know, what is it? The Hindu creation myth involves turtles all the way down. Fortunately, I'm not a religion major, but I think that's the creation myth where it has turtles all the way. You know, the universe is resting on the backs of turtles, bigger turtles and bigger turtles. No? Nobody can tell me if I'm wrong?
I don't know. I was supposed to take Hinduism last semester and then it wasn't offered.
No, darn. So,
I don't know. I've heard of that, but I don't know if it's specifically from Hinduism.
okay, now I'm digressing here because I'm actually fulfilling the mission of Carthage as being a liberal arts college. See, if this was an engineering school, I'd just tell you to take my word for it. Okay, so it does have something to do with Hinduism. Okay, it has something to do with Hinduism. Okay,
Awesome. Glad we got that sorted out.
yep, yep. Okay. So looking back at, let's just look at second file one more time. It has its own try and accept. So if the file's not found, an error message will be printed and we signal the failure to main by returning an empty list. Okay. And so that is a review of the basics of just establishing reading a CSV file. And then the other thing that will take you a little bit to wrap your head around is the idea of putting data structures inside data structures. So we've looked at putting a dictionary inside of a dictionary. Why don't we practice that as well? So first, oh yeah, I want to ask you a homework assignment. You ready? Everybody's ears perked up. Homework, homework, homework. Okay, I'd like you to think about something from your major, right? Some type of data from your major that we can express as a CSV file. And then pending somebody coming up with some good ideas, we'll get some of that data, you'll help, and we'll write a program to automate something from your major. Okay? I mean, that was the whole point of this class, that you learn enough Python, not all of Python, but you learn enough of Python to help you in your other classes. So now you got to pay the piper. Now you have to come up with some data from your major, and we can start writing programs to automate that. So any sociology students? Any chemistry students? Any students?
I'm taking both those classes, but I'm not majoring.
Oh, okay. Okay, so forgive me, maybe that was inarticulate. Does anybody have something they really hate to do in their other classes involving data? Anybody? I mean, that's why computers were invented, right?
Yeah, I don't know if this counts, but I'm a Japanese major, and just yesterday I was thinking, God, I wish I could go and take all of these vocabularies that I learned in my oral Japanese class, meaning it's not in the textbook and I can't look it up, and I wish I could just put them in a program and alphabetize them. So,
That raises some interesting questions, but alphabetize according to what alphabet?
well,
Yeah.
of course, then there's the whole, would Python work with Japanese?
Yes, it would. And you know what? That's such a cool idea that I will research how to make that happen.
Thank you.
And we'll do that in a future class.
Thank you very much.
I did it once before. So once before in almost 60 years means I got to go look it up again.
Fair enough. I guess that means I'll have to go and look back at all the slides from my oral class.
So let's
Gather
say,
some vocabulary.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be a lot, right?
Mhm.
Let's say you were able to format it as column 1 is the Japanese text, comma, and then column 2 would be perhaps English translation.
All right. Yeah.
And maybe we could write a flip book, is that what they call it again?
Flipbook?
Flip, you know how you practice vocabulary by flipping your card over?
Flashcards.
Flashcards, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we could write a flashcard program.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Anybody in any other language class? We could do that for every language.
I'm in Chinese.
Yeah, I'm in Spanish.
I'm in Spanish too.
Okay, so tell you what, I will do the research to find out how to handle alternate character sets. That's what we're talking about being necessary to process other languages.
Yeah, I don't know quite how to do it. I remember reading in the textbook something about the whole thing with every character has a number assigned to it and that whole spiel. And I remember we had a little participation thing that was like, hey, put in some fun characters and it'll tell you what the numbers are. And so just for giggles, I went and because I know how to turn on the Japanese keyboard on my computer, I typed in some Japanese characters. They do have those numbers assigned to them. They were big numbers, but
yes,
I do know they exist.
Yes. Let me give you a little bit of background because this sounds like a fertile area because a number of you are in language classes. So let's do this. Let me give you a little background. And so far, when you've seen A and B and all the Latin characters like that, we've been looking at something called ASCII. And that is the mapping between letters in the Latin alphabet to numbers. And naturally enough, because Americans are so exceptional, it's called the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay. But later on, much later on, somebody figured out America is not the only country in the world. Mind blown. Yeah. So to allow for all alphabets, there is now something called Unicode. So where ASCII could support a total of 256 symbols, Unicode unifying all the alphabets can support millions of symbols. Okay, so what I'm promising to do is to do a little research on Python handling of Unicode, and then we'll write a program that does flashcards.
Thank you very much.
This would be fun.
I'm sure at least Sydney and I would appreciate a way to practice kanji.
Yeah, that would make studying for tests a lot easier.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fun. Gonna love it. Okay, how about non-language? Actually, you know, even if we do a flashcard program, it'll also work with ASCII. So you could use it in biology, anatomy, and you know, all those fields that have made up names. You know, like corpuscle. Okay. Like that entered my head because I was again thinking about the Marx Brothers and the corpuscles used in a gag, the Marx Brothers. Okay, so anybody else want to suggest a program we could write with data from your area of your choice? Okay, why don't you think about it? Okay, so think about it like an ungraded homework assignment. Underrated integrated homework assignment. Okay, ungraded homework. Oh, forget it. Okay, so I'm actually happy to end class now. If you'd like to drop off, that's fine. I'll stay as long as there are questions, because we're at a good breaking point.
I had a question about the midterm. I know it's going to be multiple choice for the format of the questions, but what can we expect as far as the content?
Okay, so the content will be drawn from the chapters that you've been assigned and completed up until the point of the exam.
So are the questions kind of going to model the like participation activities, like how it gives us a block of code and we have to anticipate what the output's going to be type of thing?
That sort of thing, yes. And also questions like which of the following has an error? That sort of thing.
Okay.
Okay, everybody, enjoy the extra 16 minutes of life that you have available to you.
Ah, yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.